Hi, this is Rob Graham, and welcome to this lesson in Flash CS3. Now, like most of the lessons I put up here on YouTube, the real point of this lesson is to provide you with a bit of understanding to help you as you learn your way through Flash. Now, as most of the lessons I create, I'm using ActionScript 2.0 for the purposes here because it really is a very simple application we're going to be working on today, and that is the virtual jack-o'-lantern. Now, the purpose of this lesson is to teach you how to create objects that you can drag around, and also to teach you how to put together a function that will allow you to pick up after yourself, put things away when you're done. If you want to follow along, there is a kit available for this project, and you can find it by going to www.learningcraft.com/flashkits/virtualjack.zip. And that contains all the parts that you need that you see here in front of me, so you can follow along. Now, before we get started, let me show you what we will be creating here. I have a virtual jack-o'-lantern, and if I run it here it is. And what it allows me to do is grab various face parts. I have some eyes here. Let me grab one of these eyes here, and I don't have to actually use the same set of eyes. I could grab that one there if I wanted, and give it a strange little pig nose, and then finally give it this lovely buck teeth look. And what we want to be able to do is figure out how we can move these objects around, and then I'll show you how to create a reset button that will allow you to put everything back when you're done. Now, for this project to work, the first thing I need to do is I need to set some of these things up so that I can communicate with the individual parts. For example, if I want to talk to this eye, as opposed to, say, this eye, then I need to have a way to differentiate between them. However, if I click on this object, it tells me down here in the Properties window, it's a graphic, which may be nice and all. And this one is a graphic as well, and this is a graphic, and this is a graphic. But I can't actually use a script to talk to this individual object unless I can give it a specific name. Now, one of the problems we have is that we cannot name graphics in Flash. However, we can name buttons, and we can name movie clips. And in this case, it will work out very well to my advantage if all of these objects are actually buttons. Well, here they are as graphics. How do I make them into buttons? Well, very simply, if I go down to the Properties window, I have a little pull-down menu here. And if I select this, I can now go in and say, make that object into a button, please. And it does so. And I can not only make it into a button, but now I can name the instance. Let me go in here and give it a name that I can remember later. How about IA1? And I'll take its companion here and do the same thing. Click on it. I'm going to convert it into a button object as well. And I'll call this and we'll call this A2. Okay, so we have a matching set. A1 and A2, and I can name this one here B1 and B2, and this one could be C1 and C2, and I've left some space if you want to create your own artwork to go in to decorate your own virtual jack-o'-lantern for me. Okay, so now I have some objects. So naming them is my first step, but what I really want to be able to do now is add a script to these objects so they know how to behave when I go over and try to drag them around. Well, first thing I need to do is I need to identify what can be dragged and what can't be dragged. I'm going to start by going over and selecting the first eye here, IA1, and I'm going to go and open up the Actions menu for this button. Now, since it is a button, and I'm going to expect it to act like a button, I'm going to give it some criteria to work with. So, for example, I go in and I say on, and it's going to look for an event that a button would look for. However, in the case of creating something we want to drag around, what we really want to do is we want to look for a press. We want someone to hold their mouse button down on that object for it to do what we need it to do. So I'm going to put press there in parentheses, and then I'm going to put an open bracket. And the script we want here is a very simple script called start drag. And now that we have start drag in place, what we need to do is we need to tell it specifically what we want it to drag around. And the object that I've named here is IA1. And I put it in quotations because it is a named object here. There we go. And when I have that done, I can put it in a semicolon, hit enter, and then I can put a close curly bracket. So now what happens when the user presses their mouse down on this object, it executes a script for start drag, and it tells it what to drag. In essence, it's saying drag myself around. And that's a great start. Now I'm going to show you the second part of this, and that is what happens when we're done dragging. So instead of looking for a press, I'm going to look for a release. And I can double click it here, or I can type it in, release, and open curly bracket. And now what I want to do is I want to make sure that the dragging stops. So I use a term called stop drag. And by the way, note on start drag and stop drag that the D in drag is capitalized, and that's the proper syntax. In this case, I don't really care what it stops dragging. I want it to stop dragging everything as soon as I let go of the mouse. So I'm just going to put an open and close parentheses there. And I'm going to go in here and put a close curly bracket. And I'm going to copy this entire script and make life really easy for me. And let me go and click on this button here. And in this case, I'm just going to say IA2. Now, of course, we can always check this and make sure our scripts are working, but these 4 objects now have scripts associated with them, so I can go and grab this object. And there's that eye. Very good. And I have this nose here. And finally, we have the silly teeth there. So my jack-o'-lantern is coming together very nicely. So all you need to do is go in and do the same thing to each of the objects here. Give them names, and then use those names to write the scripts. And as I'm working on my jack-o'-lantern, it occurs to me at some point I might want to put things back. I mean, just instead of dragging this object back to where it goes, I really want to have some way to just clean everything up so I can start all over again. Let's close this program, and we'll go back into our master here. And what we really need to think about is, how do we get this object from wherever it is on our screen, on our stage, back to this point right here? And the way we need to do this is, first of all, we need to take a few notes. So for example, this object here, if I click on it and look down at my properties window, I get some information about it. It tells me what the width of the object is and the height of the object, and that's all good information. However, for our purposes, I want to know what the X and Y value of this object is. Basically, what I want to know is how far, and we're measuring from the upper left-hand corner, is this point from the edge or top of our stage. And I click on this object, it tells me that the X coordinate is 3.6 pixels and the Y coordinate is 4 pixels. Now I can probably clean this up and make it a lot easier for me. Let's just put a 4 in there, and there's my eye. And if I click on this eye over here, it tells me that it's 85 pixels and 4 pixels, and the nose has its own coordinates and the mouth has its coordinates as well. So I'm going to just very quickly write these down. Now once I have that information, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here into my library, and if you scroll down to the bottom here, there's something called the reset button. And I'm just going to drag the reset button. I'm going to stick it in the corner here right by the pumpkin and use my cursor keys to position it. There we go. And what I want to do is I want to put a script on the reset button, which will allow us to reset everything. So I click over here on my actions for the button, and because it is a button, I'm going to say, hey, let's do something on release. And what I want to do is I want you to use a function called set property. All right, so I type in set property. Once again, notice that the P in property is capitalized here. And this has several different parts. The first thing it's going to ask me is, what is the target that you want me to reset? And in this case, let's just say the first thing I want to reset, I'm going to put it in quotes here, is IA1. Okay. Now, in actuality, I'd want to create a script that takes every single object on the screen that I want to move and put its information in. Since I've only selected a few of them, I'll only do a few of them very quickly here. IA1, and what I want to do is I want to talk about the property here, and the property I'm looking for is I'm looking for the X value. So I want you to understand that I'm going to IA1, and I'm dealing with this X value, which in this case is underscore X. Okay? And then finally, I need to put in the value, the X value that's there, and in this case, it is 4 pixels. Okay, so I put that in there like that, and that's a good start. Now let me just copy this very quickly, save ourselves a little bit of typing, and I'm going to go and paste it down here. And let me just put a close quote in here. I'm going to hit right return and close curly bracket, and then I can click right here on this object here, which just allows me to configure everything. And what I have now is a set property for IA1, and I'm setting the X value to 4 pixels, and in this case I'm also setting the Y value to 4 pixels. Now let me just copy both of these guys again, and grab that, and let's do a quick paste. And in this case, let's go for the second eye, and this is going to be IA2. And the value of I, the X value, in this case is 85 according to my cheat sheet, and it's 4 for I2. So those eyes should go right back there. And then very quickly, let me just go in here and also set up a place for the nose and the mouth. So okay, so now we've gone in and basically we've just hardwired all of these buttons so that they have a place that they go back to. Now let's go check this out really fast. And if I drag my eyes over here, there's 1. And if I drag my eye back here, there's 2. And there's my nose. And there's my mouth. And I say, well, that's a nice face and all, but I want to try again. I go and click on my reset button. and all the objects go back to where they should. So very quickly, we're able to create a virtual jack-o'-lantern, create these objects that we can drag and place on top of the pumpkin here. And when we're done, we can click on the reset button and everybody goes back to where they belong. Hope you've enjoyed the lesson. As always, feel free to check things out online. There's plenty more videos here on YouTube. You can look under Learning Craft or under my name, Rob Graham, to learn more about how to use Flash CS3. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you real soon.